Hi, welcome to I Survived Cancer, Now What? This is a series of interviews with cancer survivors with of various stages of their survival journeys. I'm Stacy Strongaroni, both a cancer survivor and a certified life coach. And I'm here today with Karen Abedo, who I'm going to interview about her experience with cancer. Hi, Karen.
Hi, Stacy. Very nice to see you.
Yeah, welcome. So right off the bat, let me ask you, what type of cancer did you have and what stage was it?
I had lung cancer, adenocarcinoma, and I was very, very lucky. It was stage one.
Oh, amazing. Great. And how long ago, were you first diagnosed?
Um, okay, this is a complicated story because I found it. The doctors didn't tell me about it.
Same.
And I
Wow.
kind of knew I had it for 2 years. And I even got a letter from a hospital telling me that I had no evidence of lung disease. So I had started getting those, I'm an ex-smoker. So I started getting the low dose CAT scans.
Hmm.
Yearly. And the first year I saw a notation and uh, and I asked doctors and they said, "Oh, you're fine." Second year I saw a notation and I was going to a lung doctor for something else for COPD.
Hmm.
And so I found this lung doctor and I went to him and I walked in and he said, "Where have you been?" And so we looked at some pictures together and then he sent me for a barrage of tests. This was 2018.
Hmm.
And apparently I'd had it for at least 2 years because I kind of knew
Wow.
before I was diagnosed.
Wow.
Was that 18? Oh my God, I'm having a hard time remembering now.
I
2000,
thought the same thing.
2019 it was when he
Wow.
told me about it. Yeah.
Wow. So you're hitting your 5 years. It's a big
Yes. I
milestone.
passed the 5 years of past surgery. So,
Great.
and there's no evidence of anything new. Yeah, I'm
That's
very lucky.
Yeah. So can I ask you what types of treatments or surgeries did you do?
The only thing I had to do was surgery. They took
Mhm.
out the bottom third of my right lung,
Oh,
and
mhm.
that's it. So far, so good.
I'm so happy to hear that. And
Thank
what an
you.
amazing story of like listening to your body and knowing your body and advocating for yourself. Because if you hadn't, who knows when it would have been found.
Yeah, and it was also uh, a very strange time. We were leaving Georgia and moving to Delaware. And
Hmm.
the day that we were scheduled to leave, we packed the truck and I had my last appointment and I was diagnosed that day.
Wow.
So we got in the truck and drove for 2 days with this looming diagnosis. And I went to another state where I had no insurance and had to like scramble and get insurance and set up surgery. And
Yeah. It's
yeah,
uncanny. I found my lump when I was in a remote on a long remote vacation.
oh my God,
Kind of similar, like just a weird transition moment. It's interesting the kind of resilience and resourcefulness you find in those moments. I can imagine when you got to Delaware, you had to do a lot to get your life in order real quick.
I did. Yeah, it was a scramble for sure. But it
Yeah.
worked out. I mean, I just couldn't be more grateful, and I couldn't feel more lucky. I ended up going to Hopkins, and um, I was living in a smaller city in Georgia, and the medical care was less than stellar
Right,
there. I
right,
wasn't going to get the surgery there anyway, um,
right.
but I was very lucky.
That's amazing. Yeah. So how did you take care of yourself, kind of around the diagnosis, around the surgery? I don't know if you've had any kind of follow-up treatments or therapies you've had to do, but what self-care practices or integrative treatments did you use, if any, to support you during this journey with cancer?
Well, it was a time of upheaval. We were living in a temporary shelter, not like a public shelter, but in part of my mother's home,
Mhm.
because of the move. And my wife
Yeah.
had a job full time. Is it actually more than full time? And I wasn't working yet. I took 2 months off for my private practice. Got to surgery, and I was in the hospital for like 5 days. They took really good care of me. It's bizarre how comforting it is for me when I think about being in a hospital.
Hmm.
I don't have fear or anxiety about it. I have like, oh God, they took such good care of me. You know?
That's amazing.
Yeah. It's the second time in my life that I felt like that with medical issues.
Wow.
Um, because you don't have to do anything, right? You let go.
Yeah.
So,
Hmm.
I mean, probably my strongest self-care thing is that I'm a meditator.
Hmm.
And I had a previous, as I mentioned, medical situation with my brain. Also very lucky. They found an aneurysm before it exploded. And
Wow.
this was traveling. I was in another town.
What
And
is
but I
it
ended up
about
in Vanderbilt,
traveling?
right? I
So do
woke
you
up
do
in
all
a hotel.
staycations now? Do you do all
Yeah.
stay?
Oh my goodness. I woke up in a hotel and I didn't know where I was. I had transient global amnesia, it's called. Went to
Wow.
Vanderbilt. They thought I was having a stroke. I didn't. And it's unconnected to anything that was going on, but they found an aneurysm. And what I learned from that experience of the brain surgery was that I had this moment of going into surgery where I looked at the surgeon, I signed the papers that said, I know I might not wake up. And I completely let go of all control, all concern,
Mm.
all fear. It was the most bizarre moment of absolute serene acceptance that I've ever experienced in my life.
Wow, that's really amazing.
It was. And so I've sort of wanted to replicate that in my life. And when the surgery came up for cancer, I was able to do that again, where I was able to just look at the care team and say, whatever happens is fine. Whatever
Yeah.
happens, I'm already all right.
Yeah.
I'm already all right is sort of my mantra. And
Love that.
so I've meditated a lot and I walked. I live near a bridge that on the right is the ocean. If you're going north, on the right is the ocean, on the left is the Indian River Inlet, and it's a bay. And the first week home, I went for a walk on there, and I was like a turtle, right? My poor wife was like, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" And I said, "I can't answer you and walk at the same time." Um, I didn't realize how much of my lung capacity I'd lost in the 5 days in the hospital. They had to keep me because I was crashing
Mm. Wow.
repeatedly. So they kept me for 5 days, and then when I came out, everything had atrophied. So I just did this plodding walk over this unbelievably beautiful vista
Mm.
as often as I could. And I have this amazing wife who was like, get off the couch, we're going for a walk, you're not going to sit. Um, and it worked. And
Amazing.
I swam. I tried swimming to rebuild my lung capacity. And I don't know that I'll ever reach where I was, but I don't know that that's the lung surgery or COPD. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so I can't do as many strokes as I used to be able to do without breathing. And I
Yeah.
think I just have to accept that.
Yeah. That's an amazing story about the surrender and the peace with which you've rebuilt. I kind of feel like recovery is like making a hill of sand with a teaspoon. You're just
Mhm.
like it's like one small step at a time. And I'm wondering, did this experience kind of enhance your meditation practice, or how much of that surrender and moment mindfulness do you think it's kind of strengthened your practice and your level of peace and resilience, or not really?
I think it did, and then it didn't, and then it does, and then it doesn't. And,
Yeah.
like anything else that we're practicing, it's like we grasp it and then it slips out of our hands, and then we have to grasp it again and keep reaching. And I don't meditate as much as I used to. Um, and there are times when I feel not okay, not peaceful. But
Yeah. Yeah.
but I think, I had years of practice too before any of these things happened, any
Yeah.
of the stuff. So there's sort of an underlying. And I'm in recovery for substance addiction as well for 32 years now. So
Wow.
there's that practice, which is, like you said, 1 day at a time, 1 minute at a time, one step, do the next right thing. And if I
Yeah.
can remember to do all of those self-care things that you're talking about, then I'm peaceful. And if I can't, then I'm upset at the grocery store. So
Yeah. Yeah. I
or
really
trapped.
appreciate that reframe. I appreciate that reframe because it's like those time lapse graphs. Like
Mhm.
if I look at my level of peacefulness since having gone through cancer, it's like up.
Mhm.
It has increased my level of calm and peacefulness. But if you look at the day by day, minute by minute, it's the up and down and up and down. And so thank you for reminding, that was a Pollyanna-ish question I asked you, like, so are you transformed?
Well, and
I
but
know,
there's
but
truth to that. I am transformed in that there's a level of gratitude that, between recovering from addiction, then recovering from brain surgery, and then recovering from lung cancer, there's just a level of acceptance there and
yeah,
gratitude. That
yeah,
it's, the last stage of grief is now, thankfully, they've added the meaning making, and that's it for me. It's like these things have been horrific in
yeah,
moments, and yet I'm filled with gratitude, and it's the meaning that I've made from my experiences, like that moment of absolute peace and surrender,
yeah.
and the moments of gratitude for the people that took care of me, for my wife, staying in it, working a horrible job and walking me over a bridge whenever she could, you know, um, those things you don't forget, so they're easier to reach back to, I think, once you've been through something like this.
Yeah, that's amazing. So, what, if anything, are you still struggling with as relates to being a cancer survivor?
Um, I have to add the element of COVID because I moved and was diagnosed with cancer the day I moved. I landed, couldn't get a job because I had to take care of myself. And then I was taking care of my mother. I moved in with her to stay in her house, and she was not doing well. And I didn't know that before I arrived. So that was like a focus. And then COVID came and I was isolated. So
Yeah,
I think what I've noticed is the dovetailing of cancer and COVID, particularly because it was lung cancer,
yeah,
made me isolated for almost 4 years. And I'm just
yeah,
now coming away from that. I still like, I won't work in a public health setting, because
mm,
I can't. Um, so I work remotely and I live in rural Delaware.
right.
So the isolation of the necessary self-care during that period sort of increased my acceptance of aloneness. And then I hit a wall. And what I've realized from that is that I didn't truly process grief because I feel like I can't speak for everyone, but I feel like I need other people to like validate my grief process. I don't know if that's
Mhm.
healthy or not healthy, but it's like I don't know what I'm going through until I see the look in somebody else's eyes, if that makes
Yeah,
sense.
yeah,
Um, there's tentacles of grief that I have not yet touched, and I'm very surprised by that because I was
yeah,
stage one, surgery only, 5 days in the hospital and home, no follow up care except for yearly CAT scans, and so I had it easy, and also it was really hard.
well, easy is relative, right? I think,
Yeah.
you know, we have this vision of cancer like it's supposed to be, it's if you don't die from it immediately, you feel lucky.
Yeah.
Like no matter how,
Mhm.
it's just a mental, emotional, physical
Mhm.
battle, no matter what. I mean, I know people who've had stage 0 of, breast cancer, but still it has altered their lives. And it's hard to, yeah, it's hard to sometimes. I do the same thing. I mean, I had a pretty treacherous treatment, but I'm like, I'm fine now. So I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm fine. Because you feel like one of the lucky ones. And in being that lucky one, you don't get to fully process the grief or even know that it's there.
Yeah. And if I go back to meditation, I study Tibetan Buddhism, and I'm sure that in almost all Buddhist practices, there's an aspect of acceptance of dying, right? Is one of the major things about it, and that drew me to it. And I was doing that before the brain thing happened, and then between the brain thing and cancer. And so now I'm kind of doubling down on that effort. because what's happened is I've turned 65. I've had 2 life-threatening illnesses, and I am so stuck sometimes in I am running out of time. This is when I get mad at the grocery store, is I don't have time for
Yeah.
traffic jams because I have so much less time in front of me than behind. And so having that experience of cancer reminds me of that pretty much on a daily basis, that there's a limit
Yeah.
and I better make it count. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
With that is acceptance, but there's also like this lower frustration tolerance for time wasting
Yeah.
that
I heard.
is difficult, and I think the other thing I'm surprised by is that when I am sick now, I always wonder, even if it's somewhere else in my body, like, oh, hip pain, oh, could that be lung cancer
Yeah.
metastasized to my bones? It's like an instant, but it
Yeah.
happens. So
Yeah.
that surprised me too. I'm sure you've experienced that as well.
Yeah. I have. It takes a mundane head cold and just gives it a lot more meaning and worry than it needs to have.
Yeah, yeah.
So when you talk about the ways in which even now, 5 years later, you're noticing these kind of lingering after effects. Um, if you had a magic wand, what kind of services would be out there, or what would you be able to access to maybe support you on this part of the journey, which is a little quieter maybe than when you're in the thick of it? But is there anything you think you need either from your friends, your family, the community, the medical establishment that would support you as a survivor?
You know, I think because of my experience in 12-step recovery, I feel like it would help me to help other people. It would help me to be in groups of people who are survivors so that if somebody's new, I could say, this is what happened for me, this is what I did. And I don't have that opportunity because of the isolation and because of the expensive medical care and therapy and, groups. I haven't found one. I would go to one.
Yeah,
I'd wear a mask, but I'd go to one.
yeah.
You know what? The other thing that I forgot that was given to me, this was a gift of the YMCA has a program where you get to be a member of the Y for free and join an exercise group of cancer survivors. And it was
Oh, wow. That's
magical.
cool.
It was really, it was 3 months long. And I only stopped going to the Y because COVID hit and they kind of closed things. But I could swim. That's where I swam. And I had this group of people that I exercised with 3 times a week for like 3 months. And it was really bonding, to be with other survivors. And it was that group experience, I think, that's led me to think that that would be really helpful now, maybe forever. I don't know.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. I love that the Y does that. I remember seeing something about it online, but I never was able to find it.
It's called Live
And
Strong.
yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah.
Mm.
That's amazing though. I mean, just that idea of community and I really like, you know, tying sometimes I don't like going to supports groups because I feel like I end up just helping other people. But you're right, that is the making meaning part of it, right? Like to help other people is an act of healing in itself. So I really appreciate your naming that is something that would help you as a survivor to be able to help other
Yeah.
people.
Well, and it's also as long as, like 12 steps works, as long as I could go there if I'm having a rough time and say it out loud
Yeah,
and receive
yeah,
support as well. It's that two-way connection, I think, that's really helpful.
that's beautiful. That's beautiful. Any final thoughts on survivorship? Anything you would want the watchers of this video who might be reflecting on their own survivor journey? Any final words you want to say today?
I would say that it's just important to say things out loud for me. And like even this call, you guys reaching out to me and asking for an interview is it's really helpful because talking about it puts things into context, and it makes me remember the fear and also what I did about it and who helped me and how they helped me. And um, I just think it's kind of amazing to be connected to other people. Like it's almost like anything else that we go through as humans. If we can make connection with other humans about it, not even having somebody rescue us, of course, we don't need rescue and we don't need to rescue other people, but to walk together
Yeah,
that's the jam.
yeah. That's really beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. And thank you so much for interviewing today and for sharing your story to hopefully inspire other people, find a nugget of wisdom that will help them through their own journey.
Thank you so much, and it was very nice meeting you.